My sister hijacked my wedding. You don't belong here, she said. But she had no idea the truth was waiting just beyond the door. And this time, I wasn't staying silent. I chose May 20th because it felt quiet, sacred, and mine. Turns out someone else thought it was hers too. The morning we chose the date, Nathan and I were sitting barefoot on my apartment floor, sharing toast with too much cinnamon. The light from the east-facing windows made our mugs of tea glow like amber. It wasn't a dramatic moment. Just right. We circled the date on my desk calendar with a red marker, May 20th, and didn't tell anyone. That silence made it more real. We didn't post, didn't throw a brunch, didn't snap a photo of the ring. There wasn't a ring yet, actually. Nathan wanted to carve one out of wood. Something simple, something earned. He'd always said, when you don't speak up, they fill the silence with what serves them. I used to think he meant corporations. Now I wonder if he meant my family. I sent in the deposit for Gallardo Gallery the next day. It was where we met, both admiring the same sculpture, fractured glass bound with wire. It's beautiful because it's been through something, I had said aloud, not realizing he stood beside me. He replied, exactly. And we both looked at each other, startled by the agreement. 3 weeks later, I was finishing grading midterms when Sierra called. Family dinner Friday. You're coming. No other details. Typical Sierra. Curate the moment, drop the caption later. When I arrived at the house, something already felt off. The lights were too bright. My mother stood with her phone poised like a production assistant. My father opened a bottle of champagne. The air smelled like roses and vanilla frosting. Then I saw the banner. She said yes. I froze in the doorway. Balloons floated lazily in the air. Sierra twirled in a white cocktail dress, a man beside her holding her hand as if he'd been scripted to. Laughter burst from the corners of the room like fireworks nobody warned me about. My mother was recording on her phone, panning slowly. My dad clapped like this was a televised award show. Sierra beamed. We're getting married. Everyone cheered. I stood still, my coat still on, purse in hand. The man, I vaguely remembered him from 2 Thanksgiving dinners ago, flashed a grin that didn't reach his eyes. Jasper and I are engaged, Sierra repeated in case the first take didn't hit. The applause rose again, and just as it died, Sierra added, May 20th. My breath caught. She kept going, oblivious, or maybe deliberate. Can you believe it? Meant to be, right? No one said a word. No one looked at me. I swallowed. That's my wedding date. There was a pause. For a moment, I hoped she'd say, oh God, I forgot. Or, we'll fix it. Or even just, I'm sorry. But instead, Sierra laughed. Yeah, but you didn't trademark it. The room laughed with her. The lights felt hotter. The frosting in the air was suddenly sickening. My father sipped his champagne, unbothered. My mother finally turned the camera off. You're already doing something smaller, right? She asked. This will be more full. I looked at them. Not a flicker of discomfort. Not a trace of recognition that something unjust had just happened. Sierra nudged me playfully. We'll send you an invite. You're gonna love the venue. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just stood there, watching the way the light caught the bubbles in their glasses, the way my mother turned back to her phone, already composing the caption. Sierra had already posted a story, my own name buried under layers of glitter font and engagement emojis. I was invisible. Again. And I hadn't even taken off my coat. Diana leans in, whispering, be the bigger sister. Sierra's wedding will be meaningful for everyone. The venue didn't call to say congratulations. They called to say it was gone. It was a Monday morning, and I was sitting in my office at the university, half listening to a student presentation while sipping cold coffee. My phone buzzed once, then again. A voicemail. I excused myself, stepping into the hallway where the hum of the fluorescent lights blended with my heartbeat. "Hi, this is Kara from Gallardo Gallery," the message began, chipper and tight. "I'm so sorry to inform you, but there's been a change to your reservation. The space is no longer available on May 20th. I played it again, thinking I misheard, but the words didn't change. When I called back, Kara stammered apologies. "There was a walk-in," she explained. "They paid the full premium, in cash. It was made under Sierra Bishop." For a moment, I thought I might drop the phone. "That date has been ours for a year," I said, trying to keep my voice from cracking. "I know," she replied. "But the new contract is signed. I double-checked. She mentioned something about your plans being flexible." I hung up before she finished. I didn't cry. Not yet. I drove straight to my parents' house. I didn't even call ahead. I needed to see if anyone still had the decency to look me in the eye and tell me this was okay. My father was reading the paper at the kitchen island, glasses perched low on his nose, a half-eaten grapefruit beside him. My mother stood at the stove, stirring something that smelled like lavender and butter. "I lost the venue," I said, standing in the doorway like a shadow. He didn't look up. "Should have finalized it earlier." "I did. She outbid me." He folded the paper with a sigh. "Well, you can't be surprised. Sierra's wedding is going to be much larger. More exposure. It's good for the family." The word struck like a slap. Family. That cursed word. The thing I kept sacrificing myself to belong to. My mother turned toward me, completely unmoved. "It's just a space, Madeline. Don't let this ruin your relationship with your sister." I stared at her. She stole it. "She's excited," she said softly, as if that explained everything. I laughed then, quietly, bitterly. It was either that or scream. "I've been planning this for over a year. I've kept it small because that's what Nathan and I wanted. You knew that. You encouraged that." She smiled like she was placating a child. "It's not worth all this drama." I walked into the living room where remnants of Sierra's celebration still clung to the corners. Curling ribbon, a champagne stain on the carpet, a forgotten bouquet wilting on the mantel. The air still smelled like her perfume. Or maybe that was my imagination. Sierra appeared at the top of the stairs. She was wearing my old college hoodie, the one I left in the laundry room months ago. She leaned over the railing, smirking. "You're upset?" I didn't answer. She descended slowly, theatrically, like she was filming herself in her mind. "It's just a day," she said, shrugging. "You can find another. You're not locked in." "You took my venue." "I improved it." I blinked. "What?" She gestured airily. "You were gonna do something artsy and sad. I'm giving it energy, a real vibe." That space meant something to me. She looked at me like I was speaking another language. "I kissed Nathan for the first time there," I said. Sierra smiled. "Then maybe you shouldn't have waited so long." I was shaking. Not visibly, but inside my body felt like a stretched wire. "Why?" I asked. "Why this date? Why my venue? You could have picked anything." She crossed her arms, head tilted. "You don't belong there anyway. It's not your kind of crowd." She turned her back to me. That did it. I left the house without saying another word. The door closed behind me with a soft click that felt louder than a scream. That night, Nathan came over. He didn't say anything when he walked in, just took my hand, held it for a long while. Then he pulled out a small set of keys. He looked at me and said, "Come with me. There are doors you knock on, and there are gates that open when you stop asking for permission." Nathan didn't speak as we drove. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving behind a soft orange stain on the sky. We left the city lights behind. Street lamps gave way to silhouettes of sycamore trees, then open land. My pulse thudded louder than the tires. I didn't ask where we were going. I didn't care. He reached over once to turn the radio down, though there hadn't been music. His hand grazed mine and I flinched, still too raw to be comforted. My dress from earlier was wrinkled, my hair frizzed from stress, but I didn't bother fixing anything. After about 30 minutes, Nathan turned off the main road and onto a gravel path marked by a rusted cattle gate and a mailbox with no name. The path wound between olive groves and low hills that shimmered under the stars. Eventually, we stopped in front of a tall iron gate half covered in ivy. A camera blinked once, then the gate opened on its own. I sat up straighter. "Nathan," I said, the name more breath than word. "What is this?" He didn't answer. The car crept forward down a tree-lined drive until a house appeared, or rather, a structure of glass and stone that looked like it had been poured straight from the hillside. Low, sprawling, and silent, it reflected the moonlight like water. We parked beneath a sweeping overhang. Nathan stepped out, came around and opened my door. I stepped onto the gravel. It crunched softly under my flats. The wind smelled of sage and eucalyptus. He led me through a curved glass walkway. Lights blinked on gently as we passed. Inside, it was impossibly serene. Polished concrete floors, walnut shelving, subtle art pieces tucked into quiet corners. A shallow pool lay at the center of the atrium, glowing from beneath with amber light. "This is unbelievable," I whispered. Nathan finally looked at me. "I designed it." I blinked. "You what?" "I built it. I own it." I stared at him, not quite able to process the words. "I haven't been completely honest," he said gently. "Not because I didn't trust you, but because I've seen what happens when money enters the room." My throat tightened. "I grew up differently," he went on. "Old money, family estates, entitled people who weaponize generosity. I wanted none of it. So I walked away. Started fresh. My own name, my own work." He paused. "That gallery where we met? I donated that installation." Quietly. I pressed my hands to the glass railing around the reflecting pool. It was cool beneath my fingers. Grounding. "I didn't want to be someone's trophy," he said. "I just wanted someone who saw me." The silence between us thickened, but it wasn't heavy. It was deliberate, like breath held before a dive. Nathan stepped to a side cabinet and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside were cream envelopes with deep green linings, sealed with gold wax. He opened one and handed it to me. I ran my fingers over the name embossed on the front. Madeline Bishop. "These are our invitations," he said. "I ordered them months ago. Didn't cancel them." I looked up. "If you still want to get married on May 20th, he said, voice low and steady, "this space is yours. For the ceremony. For everything." My eyes blurred. Not from sadness. From something closer to shock and clarity. "You're not doing this to one-up her?" I asked. "No," he replied. "I'm doing this so no one can erase you again." I stood in that vast, echoing space and felt something shift inside me. Not just gratitude, not even love. Dignity. After years of shrinking to fit around other people's noise, I was finally standing in something of my own. I reached for his hand. "Then let's take it back," I said. He smiled. The ride home was silent but not tense. When we arrived, I checked my phone out of habit, expecting nothing. A new notification blinked at the top. "Chase Dunham just followed you on Instagram." Below it, a direct message. "You deserve better. Can we talk?" The man marrying my sister messaged me at midnight. I wasn't sure what scared me more, that he reached out or that part of me wanted him to. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. The blue glow lit up the bedroom like an interrogation lamp. Nathan was asleep beside me, his breathing deep and even, one hand still resting on my side like an anchor. The message just sat there, harmless in appearance. "You deserve better. Can we talk?" But it wasn't harmless. Not coming from Chase Dunham, Sierra's fiancé. Not after what she'd done. I didn't answer that night. I just turned the phone face down and lay awake, blinking at the ceiling. The next morning, Nathan didn't ask what was wrong. He just slid a mug of coffee across the kitchen counter and said, "If it's time to start playing offense, I'll be right beside you." He always knew without needing the details. Later that day, I messaged Chase back. One word. "When?" He replied instantly. "Today. Somewhere quiet. My treat." I chose a cafe near the Old Mission District, tucked between a pottery studio and a secondhand bookstore, the kind of place where no one paid attention to anyone else. I arrived first, sat in the farthest corner with my sunglasses on and hoodie pulled low. I watched the front door like it might open to Sierra instead. Chase entered 5 minutes later. No sunglasses, no entourage. Just a man who looked 10 pounds lighter than the last time I saw him. Except none of it came from joy. He sat across from me without saying hello. "I didn't know she took your venue," he said, voice low. "I swear." I didn't respond. I wanted to believe him. I also knew Sierra was good at feeding people the version of the story that worked in her favor. "She told me you canceled," he continued. "Said it was budget stuff and you'd moved your wedding to the fall." I let out a breath that might have been a laugh. "Of course she did." Chase winced. That was just the start. The more we planned, the more I realized, this isn't a wedding. It's a product launch. I tilted my head. "Excuse me?" She hired a videographer from a Netflix docuseries, built a fake backstory for us meeting in Bali. It was a retreat in Scottsdale, actually. He looked embarrassed to say it aloud. She said Bali was more aspirational. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "She's marketing the marriage," he muttered, "and I'm the product." That landed harder than I expected. Not because I cared about Chase, but because I recognized the feeling. I'd lived it all my life. Always background noise to Sierra's lead role. Always edited out of the frame. "I also found something else," he said after a pause. He pulled a flash drive from his coat pocket and slid it across the table. I didn't touch it. "She has a burner phone," he said. "Hides it in her makeup drawer. I caught her texting someone at 1 a.m., laughing to herself. When I asked, she called me paranoid." My fingers hovered over the flash drive. "You think she's cheating?" "I don't know," he said. "But I know she's lying. And she's been treating this wedding like a campaign. And you..." He met my eyes. "You're the narrative villain." My stomach turned. "What's on here?" I asked quietly. "Screenshots, voice memos, a video. She admitted she wanted your date out of spite." He lowered his voice. "She can cry later." Her words. I closed my hand around the drive. It felt hot. "She tried to bribe the gallery staff. Told them to make your booking disappear." I stared at him. "Why are you giving this to me?" Chase exhaled. "Because I'm tired of being a pawn. And maybe I want her to learn what real consequences look like." He stood to leave, then turned back. "Whatever you're planning, I want to help." That night, I sat at the kitchen table while the files played on my laptop. Sierra's laughter, her sneering voice, her texts offering collab exposure in exchange for venue sabotage. By the time the last video ended, Nathan had walked in holding a glass of wine. He didn't ask what was on the flash drive. He didn't need to. He just said, "This is why we don't back down." Madeline finally speaks. Not this time. She slides the flash drive across to Nathan that night and says, "Let's make her famous." Nathan nods, makes 3 calls. Then he looks at Madeline and says, "Vivian Grant just RSVP'd." For once, I got to choose who entered the room, and more importantly, who didn't. The first invitation I held trembled in my hands. Not from nerves, but from how unfamiliar power felt when it belonged to me. The envelope was thick, deep green, the wax seal gold and still faintly warm from pressing. My name glinted beneath the light of the chandelier, the same one Sierra used to take mirror selfies under when we were teenagers. Nathan had spent hours organizing the RSVP system. each guest's name tied to a unique code that unlocked not just directions to Sterling Estate, but a hidden video. A truth bomb wrapped in elegance. We sat on the floor of the atrium that night, surrounded by sealed envelopes and a spreadsheet open on his laptop. The guest list had taken us weeks to finalize, not because it was long, but because it had to be precise. Artists who'd taught me, students I'd mentored, colleagues who saw me, not just the role I played in my sister's narrative. Survivors of their own quiet betrayals, the kind of people who wouldn't look away when the curtain lifted. And in the center of the list, one name was circled: Vivienne Grant. She'd called me the day before. "I've heard whispers," she said, her voice as smooth and cool as sea glass. "But I'd like to see the truth myself." Now she would. Nathan's contacts at his firm had worked fast, cutting together a 6-minute reel from the files Chase gave us. A timeline of manipulation, ambition, and erasure. Sierra bribing the gallery coordinator. Sierra mocking my voice memos. Sierra laughing over wine, calling me a soft inconvenience. The truth, framed like art. "We don't post it," Nathan had said. "Not yet. We let it live inside the invitations. Controlled access. Let the ones who need to see it first." So we did. By the 1st of May, all the invitations had been sent, each one a silent weapon disguised as a celebration. And then, like clockwork, Sierra texted. "Sierra, just so you know, we're dropping our trailer Friday. Try not to be too overshadowed." I stared at the message for a long time, letting the words settle into the hollow spaces she'd carved in me over the years. The emoji was her signature. Perfectly artificial, perfectly poised. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and scrolled through the final cut of the video. Sierra calling the venue a vanity mirror for nobodies. Her text to Chase: "I'll drown her in my light." Her voice saying, "She can cry later." I watched it in silence, then looked over at Nathan across the table. "She's not invited," I said. He didn't blink. "You're sure?" I nodded. "She said I don't belong. Let's prove her right." We removed her name from the master guest list, from every seating chart, from every backup email. The trailer for her wedding dropped on Friday night. Drone shots, fake smiles, a dramatic shot of her standing in an empty ballroom like a perfume ad. It was trending within hours. Until it wasn't. Because the following morning, invitations started unlocking something else. The truth behind the dress. 6 minutes, 1,000 DMs, then 2,000, then whispers. A gallery owner reposted a quote from it. A professor I hadn't spoken to in years forwarded it to his department listserv. A student uploaded a reaction video on TikTok and captioned it. Turns out the background sister kept receipts. Friday night, Sierra's wedding trailer goes live. Lavish, fake, full of staged magic. It trends for 6 hours. Then someone leaks the truth behind the dress. Views start to climb. I walked down the aisle at 2 p.m., the exact minute my sister thought she'd erase me from. The sun filtered through the olive branches that lined the arch Nathan had designed. Subtle curves of stone, glass, and flowering vines that didn't shout for attention, but held their place with quiet pride. The guests rose as I stepped forward. No one clapped. No one gasped. They simply watched. Eyes wide, still, present. The string quartet played the piece Nathan had composed just for this. It wasn't grand. It was steady, soft, and full of tension that never quite resolved until the last notes slipped into stillness. My dress had no train, no veil. Just satin and spine. Every step I took felt like a reclamation. Not from Sierra. Not even from my parents. But from the years I spent shrinking so other people could shine louder. From every holiday where my name was left off the toast. From every conversation I was spoken over. And now, no one dared interrupt. Nathan stood waiting with a quiet smile that asked no questions. His suit wasn't flashy, but the cufflinks had olive leaves carved into the gold. One hand over his heart. one waiting for mine. We said our vows beneath that arch, the hills behind us stretching like witnesses. No excess, no spectacle, just truth. When the officiant pronounced us married, the applause was respectful, even warm. But the fire hadn't started yet. That came at the reception. The courtyard glowed with dusk, guests holding glasses of lemon-thyme champagne as Nathan stepped forward to toast. His voice, always low and even, held the kind of command that silenced every murmur without asking for it. "Today isn't just about love," he began. "It's about truth, and what happens when someone tries to silence it." Heads turned, eyebrows lifted. Some leaned in. "My wife," he said, emphasizing the word just enough, "had her wedding nearly stolen. The venue, the date, even her dignity. But instead of shrinking, she rose." He turned toward the AV team stationed at the back, near the reflecting pool. "And today, we'd like to share the full story." The lights dimmed. The screen behind us flickered on. It started simple. Sierra's voice. "She'll cancel. She always does. She's soft." Then the texts. "Offer them more if it means bumping her." Then the video clip. Sierra in a robe, glass of wine, laughing. If she really loved that guy, she'd step aside. "He's just some artsy nobody. I'm the one with the real wedding." Gasps, murmurs. Some covered their mouths. Others just shook their heads. And then the doors slammed open. Sierra stood at the threshold, still in her designer gown, mascara streaked like runnels of ash. She took 2 steps in and froze. Vivian Grant, seated near the front, turned to her, expression unreadable. My mother rose from her chair. "Talia," she said, voice calm but firm, using Sierra's middle name, the one only invoked when consequences finally arrived. "Enough. Leave." Sierra looked around the room like it might dissolve if she blinked hard enough. "What?" she whispered. "You've embarrassed this family enough," my mother said. "This isn't your day." There was no applause, no jeering, just silence so pure it echoed. Sierra didn't argue, for once. She turned and walked out, her heels clipped against the stone as the doors shut behind her. And I exhaled. Finally. The rest of the night moved like a dream. Soft conversations, real laughter, nothing filtered or posed. People spoke to me with their full attention. Not like I was background, like I had arrived. 1 week later, a letter arrived. Not an email, not a DM. A single envelope with no return address. Inside, one line. "You destroyed everything. But you forgot one thing. I still have the originals." I folded the paper, slid it into a drawer, and shut it gently. Then let her start from scratch. I already did. Betrayal had carved silence into her life, but truth gave her the final word. The sister who once erased her from every frame now stood exposed. No script, no filters, no crowd left to applaud. Justice didn't roar. It echoed, quietly, steadily, in the hearts of those who finally saw her for who she was. When injustice is met with quiet conviction, even the loudest lies eventually collapse under their own weight. Perhaps all it takes is one moment of courage to reclaim a life others tried to rewrite. Like, share and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Drop a, or comment 1 if you've ever had to rise from someone else's shadow.